Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Retronaut channel. This video is actually a little bit ad hoc, and I've decided to do it to explain some changes that are going to be made to the channel ongoing, none of which is negative actually, it's all positive stuff. And I just wanted to explain why I'm making those changes and adding what I think are enhancements to the channel. So up until now, I've been building the channel from my little old user base, trying to do some good videos, and hopefully you've enjoyed some of those. If you have, can I just remind you to subscribe to the channel and make sure you click on the bell, because obviously we want to see you back in the future for more videos. But I must say that having become monetized a couple of months ago, what I discovered pretty quickly was that YouTube's share of the advertising revenue is actually not really going to be viable to maintain this channel ongoing. Now, that doesn't mean that if I didn't make any money, I wouldn't actually carry on with this channel. I would, but making a channel like this is an expensive proposition. For example, I right now use an iPhone 6s, and if I have a machine which I'm working on here, I put my 6s on a tripod and I film the machine from above, and it gives you another view onto the machine. Now, in the future, I'd like to have a down camera, one that's looking down all the time. And to do that, I would have to mount it above me. And it just wouldn't be practical to be taking that camera, taking it off, putting it back on every time I wanted to use it. So what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to get a dedicated camera for that. I found that using iPhones is actually a pretty good way of making videos. They have pretty decent lenses, pretty decent recording quality. So what I would probably do is try and get another iPhone. I would need something like an iPhone 12, which may seem a bit luxuriating, but the reason why I would need a 12 onwards is that there is certain software that I use which allows me to lock the zoom, lock the color balance and things like that. And it just wouldn't be professional to use an earlier camera. It wouldn't actually work very well. The color balance would change during the shots. The zoom would change, the focus would change, things like that. Well, not so much the zoom, but the focus would. So that really wouldn't work, right? Now, something like an iPhone 12 secondhand would be something like £300, something like that, to get one without, damage to it. So that gives you an idea of the sort of expenses that you can actually have making a channel like this. I have some very exciting news actually here, which is this is actually the first thing the channel has ever received donated to the channel. And it's from a viewer in America called Brian Roy. So hi there to Brian. Thank you very much for donating this to the channel. This is actually incredibly generous what Brian donated, and I was quite surprised actually when he offered to give it to the channel free. And it's actually, if I get it out and unpack it a bit, if you're an Apple II user, you might actually recognize what this is. Otherwise, let me keep on unpacking and I'll explain. So towards the end of the life of the Apple II, Apple actually produced a card, an expansion card for certain makes of Apple Macintosh. And you can put that card into those machines. I think there's only 2 models. And you can then actually get the machine to run as both the Macintosh and as an actual Apple II. And it's a fully fledged Apple II. It's not cut down in any way. Obviously, you don't have the expansion ports of the real Apple II. And that's actually what's in this bag here. So let me just open it up and show it to you. Now, why did I want this? Well, when I got into the rabbit hole of getting into Apple IIs and buying my Apple IIc, my Apple IIe, and my Apple II GS, this was actually something that really piqued my interest, that Apple would actually go to the expense of actually producing this card. I just thought it was an interesting solution. And the basic idea behind this card was to wean people from Apple IIs onto Macintoshes. So the idea was that you'd have a Macintosh, you could use it as a Macintosh, but then if you needed to change it into an Apple II for legacy software, you could just reboot it, and all of a sudden you'd have an Apple II. This cable is actually required to use with this card to attach, I think it's just floppy drives, maybe something else as well. I think this one might be a serial port, maybe, and this one is definitely a disk drive. I'll have to do some research about this. I'm not quite sure exactly what the 2 connectors do, but one of them is definitely for Apple IIe, Apple II disk drives. So this is a good example of what I would like to do on the channel. I'd like to feature items like this, But unfortunately, right now, the entire burden of the budget of this channel falls on my shoulders. So, I'd have to buy something like this if I actually wanted to show it on the channel. Now, to give you an idea of how much this would cost about probably £400 these days. It's become a bit of a collector's item. And in fact, if this were boxed, this would be a ridiculous price, like $1,000 or something like that. So there's just no way that I could justify buying a card like this to show on the channel. I just couldn't do it. So the changes that I'm making today in relation to revenue, so I can feature items like this on the channel. Now, thank you to Brian Roy. I don't have to pay for this particular item. And what I'm going to reveal next, I would like to give to Brian for free if I could, but I don't think there's actually a mechanism to do that. But I'll have to look into that actually. So yeah, the Apple IIe card, something that we'll look at in a future video, I think. So the changes that I'm making are that I'm going to have subscriptions for the channel. And that means that basically most of the videos are going to remain as they are, free. Any of the videos which have been published to date will remain free. And ongoing, the large proportion of videos will basically be free, just as they are now. I'm not going to put anything behind a paywall, but what I am going to do is I'm going to make videos every now and again just for my subscribers, to give them an extra insight into the channel, to give them, some sort of behind the scenes. And also they'll be able to comment on those videos and then give me some feedback as well. So it's for those people who actually really enjoy the channel and want to support it and help it to grow in the future. If you're aware of these sort of subscription systems, you've probably heard of Patreon or Patreon, depending how you say it. And that was something which I did actually have. But after, what is it, about 8 months, 10 months now, I have no patrons at all. A couple of people joined the free tier of Patreon, which means they're showing their support for the channel, but they didn't actually put any money behind those joining that Patreon. So it's nice that they did that, obviously, but it doesn't really give me any extra revenue to spend on things like a card like this. So it's actually pretty cheap. I haven't quite worked out the prices yet. I'm working at this all out at the moment, which is why this video is a little bit ad hoc. But what you'll find is ongoing underneath all of my videos, you'll see there's a little button there where you can join the channel. I think the lowest amount is about £2 or £3 a month. And the reason why it's a little bit more expensive than what I would have actually done on Patreon is because YouTube obviously takes a cut of that money, and they take a bigger cut of the money than they do with Patreon. So you might be wondering, why did I go with YouTube? Well, I'm not, I would like to support Patreon actually, because it's an independent organization. They basically created the space. They created this idea of creating subscriptions. However, I looked into it and how practical it was to actually have subscriptions on the channel and, using Patreon. And what I found was YouTube just doesn't have the mechanisms in place to allow me to give people what I think would be a high quality integrated experience on YouTube. I don't know if you know how YouTube works, but you can have public videos, you can have unlisted videos, which are basically still public, but you just don't advertise their existence. And then you can have private videos. Now, I could unlist some of my videos, but the problem is if anybody gets the URL, they can watch them. So, that's not a very good way of creating a sort of subscription model. The obvious thing to do is obviously to make videos private, and you can then share those videos with individuals on YouTube, members of YouTube. So that looks like an obvious option, except that there is a maximum number of 50 people that you can share an individual with on YouTube. So I'm not sure if YouTube made some changes to actually make that happen, to sort of make you move in the direction of their subscription system. But you can see it's obviously not a scalable system. Right now I have no subscribers, but obviously I would hope to get eventually 40, maybe 50. And once I reach 50, it would just be impossible for me to share any sort of hidden videos with my subscribers. On top of that, I would have to manually share every single video with my subscribers. I would literally have to go into it and enter every subscriber's email address. And that's obviously ridiculous. That would take too much time to do. So it's not practical for me to use that. It's not integrated. What I mean by integration is right now, when I put any videos onto YouTube ongoing, none of the videos will be hidden from viewers. Some of them will be for subscribers. They will still be advertised. It's then up to anybody out there, if they want to watch those particular videos, to subscribe to get access to them. If they don't want to subscribe, they can still watch all of the videos which are public, which, like I said, would be the vast majority of the videos. I'm only going to make special videos for subscribers. This isn't going to become some kind of paywall. So that's the plan with subscriptions, and the reason why I'm using the YouTube subscription system. On top of that as well, you also get members badges, which change over time to show, how much your loyalty you've shown to the channel. And you also get special emojis that you can actually use in your comments as well. So yeah, there's a couple of other little sort of buffs that you get from actually using YouTube. Now, I didn't want to really stop there. Something that I've been thinking about doing for a while is to increase my ability to communicate with my viewers. And up until now, it's only really via comments. Comments are okay, but the only problem with comments is that a video gets posted, people make a comment on that video, I reply to that comment, that video then fades from view, as it were. It has basically a kind of shelf life. Now, because of the way the YouTube algorithm works, that video can then come back from being in the cold storage and actually become live again, and people can comment. But basically, most videos will go off and they will become less viewed over time. And I don't think that's a good way of having a conversation, that your comments that you've made just basically disappear off into the void and nobody ever gets to see them again, to one degree or another. So what I thought was, I'm a bit of a fan of Discord. I quite like Discord channels. So I thought it would be a good idea that I actually have a channel Discord. So I was thinking about it, and the plan right now is to have multiple Discord channels. And the reason for that is I just think there's too much going on in the retro space to think about actually having a single Discord channel that could really, cover the breadth of, everything. In fact, it's actually quite hard to make a single Discord channel that covers the breadth of what's going on, for instance, in the Amiga community or the Apple II community or whatever, Those different communities have their own interests. So, if I was going to make a Discord server about, say, for instance, the Apple II era, would I then also want to have it cover the Macintosh era? Because that's a lot of eras. The Apple II era covers a bunch of different machines, and it also covers, for instance, the 2GS. And it would come to an end around about, 1993, something like that. And obviously this card would be part of that Discord. And I don't think it makes sense to then sort of blob that in with the same Discord that's then talking about Apple Macintoshes, G4 Cubes and the iMac and things like that. Things which I'm thinking about looking into in the future. I certainly own some interesting Macintoshes, and they are machines that interest me, and they definitely are retro. So those are things I'd like to look at. So if I can, I'm going to try and integrate the YouTube membership into my Discord servers, plural. So yeah, I am going to hopefully launch these Discord servers very soon. I'm still in the process of building them, getting them configured, getting it integrated with the YouTube membership. But that's basically the plan. So yeah, why have I got these magazines here? Well, actually, one of the first videos, or the first video, I'll be putting on the subscription part of the channel is where I explain where I got these from and what I'm doing with them. And based on these magazines, which I have here, obviously is Zap64, so you can kind of get an idea where I'm going with this, maybe. I am planning to do a series of videos. So I'm going to explain my thinking behind that in the first subscription video, which I will post soon. And it was actually whilst doing these that I thought, I would like to kind of explain why I'm going to do that series, how it came about, the thinking about it. And it didn't really fit into a sort of normal video that you would publish as a main video. It would make much more sense to sort of explain that to my subscribers. People are actually more interested in the channel in general than just the videos that I produce. So I thought that was, a good thing to do. I've already recorded that video. It's pretty much ready to go. And as I said, that will be the first subscription video. And based on, as I said, looking through those magazines there, I do have a series which is going to come up pretty soon. And that series, as an example, is obviously going to be free for everybody to watch. I'm not a big believer in paywalls. I don't think they work. I think that if you're going to do, in quotes, journalism, then people should read it. And I think it's actually a good thing to get videos out to as wide an audience as possible. At the same time, the revenue that I make from doing that is tiny. It's absolutely tiny. People might think that, if they watched 8-Bit Guy, you might get enough revenue to go and buy, yourself a car from working on a channel like this. In my case, I'd be lucky after a month if I could buy myself, let's say, 4 chocolate bars. I like chocolate, but it's not quite the kind of money that I would need to, buy the new cameras that I want to get, buy cards like this, which make really interesting content for you to watch. So really, if I don't make these changes, the channel is going to skim along on a very, very low budget, and that's going to really sort of cramp my style and my ambition of what I actually would like to show on the channel. So hopefully you'll take this launch in the way it's intended. Please subscribe if you can once it goes live. You don't have to pay for one of the higher tiers to get much, really. I've aimed it so that basically on the lowest tier you get quite a lot. It's then up to you if you want to, subscribe on the highest tiers to get the slightly higher end perks. So yeah, I hope that all sounds pretty interesting to you. So yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Obviously like this video if you liked it, although it's an unusual one. But anyway, if you liked it, please, click on the like button. And if you've never actually watched the channel and you do want to watch more in the future, please click on subscribe and also hit the bell on the subscribe button. And please, if you can, if it's live, click on the join button, because I'd love to see you as part of my community, which I'm hoping to build. I can't build it on my own. Obviously, a community needs more people, and I hope you will be one of those people joining the channel and helping it to grow in the future. Anyway, until the next video, take care and have a good day.